6, 2020, being held virtually in the Microsoft Teams platform via video conference. Please note this meeting will be recorded and feature public comments. Commissioners are asked to mute their microphones when they're not speaking and to verbally identify yourself prior to making any comments. And please, if you have any background noise, if you would be kind enough to turn it down or turn it off. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, this is Regina Jackson, Planning and Zoning Coordinator. I will now confirm that all members of the Planning Commission are present and can hear me by calling the roll. Commissioners, when I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Youngblood.
Present.
Commissioner Thaxton. Commissioner G.
Present.
Commissioner Coleman.
Present.
Commissioner Page.
Present.
5 members of the Planning Commission are present. This public meeting of the Planning Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Northam's March the 12th, 2020 Executive Order and City Council Ordinance 2020-102. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, given the outbreak of COVID-19, a quorum of the commission is not physically present in the meeting location, but members have joined remotely. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you will find posted on the city's planning department webpage with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will be recorded and feature public comment. Even if members of the public do not provide comment, participants are advised that people may be listening who do not provide comment, and those persons are not required to identify themselves. For this meeting, Planning Commission is convening by video conference via Microsoft Teams app as posted on the city's website, identifying how the public may join. Mr. Chairman.
Madam Secretary, I believe, and Commissioners, I believe when I started, I said October the 6th. Today is October the 17th. Our previous meeting was October the 6th. Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the October 6, 2020 public hearing. Do any commissioners have any corrections or changes to the minutes? If so, please state your name before stating the changes. If there aren't any changes, we're in need of a motion to approve the minutes as well as a second.
Mr. Chairman, this is Peter Youngblood. I make a motion we approve the minutes as posted.
Commissioners, we have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner G. I second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the October the 6th, 2020 public hearing. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood?
Yes.
Commissioner G?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman? She is on the line. I believe she's having some difficulties. Commissioner Page?
Yes.
The minutes are approved by a vote of 4-0. Meetings of future meetings and conferences. Items received today will be presented to City Council for action at their November the 24th, 2020 or the November the 8th, 2020 virtual meeting or as otherwise noted. We also ask that you mute your microphones when you're not speaking and to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments. Our first public hearing item is SNC-20-02 West Norfolk. Trent Kelly of Lineage Logistics requests a permanent street name change for a 400-foot dead-end portion of Chemical Way from its current designation to the name Lineage Way, in support of the planned Lineage Logistics facility at 3200 Chemical Way. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates the property as industrial. The property is public right-of-way owned by the city of Portsmouth. Our staff coordinator is Carl Jackson. Will the staff coordinator for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
All right, thank you, Regina. This is
You're
Carl
welcome.
Jackson, Manager of Transportation Planning. And yes, as was mentioned, this is SNC 2002. If we can go into the next slide. So the request consists, as was mentioned, of a 400-foot portion of paved right-of-way between Chemical Way and Progress Way that will be constructed as a permanent street in the West Norfolk Special District. Next slide. Property is surrounded by industrial uses and is bounded by Central State Trucking Company to the north, the former BASF site, now Lineage Logistics site, to the east. Next. There's a 50-foot wide railroad and 20-foot wide right-of-way for West Norfolk Road to the south and Angler Street at the intersection to the west. Next slide. Lineage Logistics, LLC, is a logistics and cold food storage company that acquired Preferred Freezer Service and in 2019 announced plans to build a cold food storage facility on Chemical Way on the former BASF industrial site. Next slide. The submitted project site plan indicates that the right-of-way will be constructed as a street and serve as the entrance to the industrial building, which will be the only property served by the road. No additional property owners will be impacted by the name change. Next slide. Lineage Logistics feels that the name Chemical Way reflects negatively on food storage facility and offers the street name Lineage Way as an alternative. Staff recommends approval of the street name change with the conditions listed. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the commissioners.
Commissioners, as I call your name, please determine if you have any questions for Mr. Jackson. Commissioner Youngblood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jackson, am I correct in saying that this will not necessitate an address change for any existing businesses?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, the name change is limited to a small portion of the roadway that'll serve exclusively as the entrance to the Lineage Logistics food storage facility.
Well, what I'm driving at is, are there any other businesses that front on this road that would be impacted by name change for mail delivery or any other purpose? I didn't see any when I was out there, but I want to clarify this.
No, there aren't any. Like I mentioned, there is the trucking company, but it has a different address, so it would not be impacted.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner G.
I do not have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Coleman.
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Page.
I have no questions at this time.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the public hearing on item SNC-20-02. Citizens will be called upon to provide comments or questions and are asked to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments and to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Will the applicant for SNC-20-02 come forward to provide any additional information or comments, please state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Hello, my name is Larry Longman, and I'm with Victory Unlimited Construction, and we represent Mr. Trent Kelly of Lineage Logistics in this request. Our address is 6831 East 32nd Street, Suite 300 in Indianapolis, Indiana, 46226. And I think the highlights were given by Mr. Jackson. The exact I guess nomenclature for the road was requested for a name change for the sole purpose that food products coming into and out of the facility just have a negative connotation, I think, with being part of Chemical Way. And when we looked at the aerial map, thought that this was an amicable solution that could be considered because it did not impact any of the property owners. And with that, we appreciate the staff report that was just presented and really have no further comments unless you have questions for us.
Commissioners, I will call each of your names to determine if you have any questions for the applicant's representative. Commissioner Youngblood.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner G.
I also have no questions.
Commissioner Coleman.
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Page.
I have no questions.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on SNC-20-02. I have no registered speakers. If there is someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. Please press *6 to unmute your mic, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, is there any further discussion on SNC 20-02? If not, we're in need of a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, Peter Youngblood here. I make a motion that we approve SNC 20-02, the name change from Chemical Way to Lineage Way.
Commissioners, we have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Donna Coleman. I second the motion.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve SNC-20-02. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood?
Yes.
Commissioner G?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Page?
Yes.
This item is approved 5-0. Our next item, S-20-01, Victory Village. The Portsmouth Economic Development Authority requests the closure of Village Way and a portion of Corporate Drive northwest of Freedom Avenue. Part of the proposed Rivers Casino Portsmouth development located between McLean Street and Victory Boulevard. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates the property for mixed-use employment. The property is right-of-way owned by the city of Portsmouth. Our staff coordinator is Carl Jackson. Will you please come forward and present your application at this time?
Thank you, Regina.
You're welcome.
And good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. So this is S-20-01. We can go to the next slide. The closure requests consist of Village Way, also known as Town Center Way, and Corporate Drive. These are two paved roadways northwest of Freedom Avenue in the Victory Village neighborhood area. Next slide. To the north, east, and west, the roadways are surrounded by vacant, undeveloped property owned by the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority, and to the south is Freedom Avenue. Next slide. The applicant is requesting the closure of Village Way and Corporate Drive as part of the proposed Rivers Casino Portsmouth project, as will be discussed later on by Ms. Chop in the preceding rezoning. Since streets in Portsmouth have no zoning, this street closure must first proceed so that the rezoning can be applied to the land currently occupied by the streets. Next slide. The road closure will not impact any access to neighboring properties nor Tidewater Community College. Staff recommends approval with conditions, including preserving access to the existing utility easements along the streets. And I'm happy to answer any questions by the commissioners.
Commissioners, I will call each of your names to see if you have any questions for Mr. Jackson. Commissioner Youngblood.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jackson, did you get any comments from anybody nearby? I don't see anybody within 200 yards in any direction of this property, but just in case you got some comments from the public, could you tell me what those were?
No, we did not, or I did not receive any public comments for this particular application. I know that there were some comments received for the rezoning.
Thank you.
Commissioner G.
No questions or comments at this time.
Commissioner Coleman.
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Page.
No questions at this time.
And I have no questions. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the public hearing on item S-20-01. Citizens will be called upon to provide comments or questions and are asked to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments and to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Will the applicant for S-20-01 come forward to provide any additional information or comments? State your name and address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
This is Steve Romine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Williams and members of the Planning Commission. For the record, my name's Steve Romine. I am the local attorney for Portsmouth Gaming Holdings, LLC. This action today on S-2001 is on behalf of Portsmouth Gaming, on behalf of the Economic Development Authority. And we speak in support of this road closure. This is a necessary part of the future development for the Rivers Casino project on this adjoining property. And that will help facilitate that development. So it's the first step in that process and is related to the next matter on your agenda. So I would ask that you recommend approval of this matter, this request. And I also have Mike Tobin with us on the line if there's any other specific questions, and we'll stand by for questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Romine. Commissioners, I will call each of your names to see if you have any additional questions or any questions for Mr. Romine. I have none. Commissioner Youngblood.
No, sir, I have none.
Commissioner G. Commissioner G.
I don't have any comments.
Commissioner Coleman.
No comments or questions at this time.
Commissioner Page.
No questions.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the public hearing on S-20-01. I have no registered speakers. If there is someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. press *6 to unmute your mic, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed. Mr. Chairman.
The commissioners, if there are no further questions, the chair is in need of a motion for S-20-01.
This is Commissioner G. I move for acceptance of S-20-01 with the stated let's see, where is it? With the stated stipulations.
Were there any stipulations, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just to make sure that the city retains access to the utility easements that are on the property.
Okay. So that's S-20-01 with conditions. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Page. I second the motion.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve S-20-01. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood?
Yes.
Commissioner G?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Page?
Yes.
This item is approved 5-0 with conditions. Our next item, Z-20-07, Victory Village. Stephen R. Romine, on behalf of the Economic Development Authority, is requesting to rezone approximately 50.523 acres at 3560 Victory Boulevard, 0 Compass Drive, 0 Victory Boulevard, 0 Victory Way, 111 Compass Drive, 0 Freedom Avenue, 271 Freedom Avenue, 175 Freedom Avenue, and 3606 Victory Boulevard, from Mixed Use Employment Center, MXEMP-K, to High Intensity Mixed Use MU-H, for eventual use as an entertainment overlay district and casino gaming establishment. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for mixed-use employment. The property is owned by the Economic Development Authority and is further described as tax map 524, parcel 1.2, parcel 1.9, parcel 2.1, parcel 2.2, parcel 2.3, parcel 2.4, parcel 2.5, parcel 2.6, parcel 2.7, parcel 2.8, parcel 3, parcel 3.4, and parcel 3.5. Will the staff coordinator for this application, Julie Chop, please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. This is Julie Chop, Senior Planner with the City of Portsmouth. The rezoning application before you today is a request to rezone approximately 50 acres on what is known as the Victory Village site, located east of Victory Boulevard, north of Greenwood Drive, west of McLean Street, and south of Interstate 264. This property is a portion of what was formerly the Fairwood Homes Affordable Housing Project, and was purchased by the city in 1997. In 2007, the property was zoned to the Mixed Use Employment Center, or MXEMP zoning district, and included proffered conditions requiring compliance with the Victory Village Master Plan and Design Guidelines. In 2015, a request to rezone the property from MXEMPK to conditional general mixed use for a 292-unit multifamily residential and commercial development was denied by City Council. This site is proposed for the high-intensity mixed-use zoning district for eventual use as an entertainment overlay district and casino gaming establishment. The property is designated on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan as mixed-use employment. The Tidewater Community College campus is located directly east of the Victory Village area and is zoned MXEMP. The Newport residential community, a mix of multifamily, townhouses, and single-family detached dwellings, is located to the south of the subject site. The Newport neighborhood is zoned conditional urban residential. The Victory Crossing Shopping Center contains 6 outparcels along Victory Boulevard on the northwest side of I-264 and the Victory Village site. The Victory Crossing Shopping Center is zoned general mixed use. The Victory Crossing HRT Bus Transfer Center is also located northwest of the site along McLean Street. A mix of commercial uses along Victory Boulevard, zoned GMU, are located to the west of the proposed site. The applicant seeks to rezone the Victory Village property in furtherance of the Portsmouth Entertainment District Development Agreement between the EDA and Portsmouth Gaming Holdings, LLC, an affiliate of Rush Street Gaming, to construct a casino, hotel, and entertainment venue. Proffers were not included in this initial rezoning. However, conditions will likely be included in subsequent applications. A Virginia Department of Transportation Chapter 527 Traffic Impact Analysis Draft and Technical Appendix for the Victory Village Entertainment District was submitted, reviewed, and approved by VDOT in compliance with Section 15.2-2222 of the Code of Virginia. The report identified required road improvements to support the rezoning and the proposed development. The EDA and Portsmouth Gaming Holdings, LLC, have entered into a traffic infrastructure agreement to ensure that the necessary road improvements are completed. As you all are aware, the city's zoning ordinance was recently amended to create an entertainment overlay district and to allow the casino gaming establishment use to be permitted with a use permit only within the MUH zoning district and only within an established entertainment overlay district. On November 3rd, 2020, the referendum to allow casino gaming in Portsmouth was approved by a majority of voters as required by state code. Pending approval of this rezoning application, the applicant will be required to apply to rezone the designated property to an entertainment overlay district. An entertainment overlay district conceptual master plan is required with the application, which shall include a detailed master plan, conceptual elevations, and a phasing plan of the proposed development. Pending approval of the property as an entertainment overlay district, the applicant will subsequently be required to apply for a use permit to allow the casino gaming establishment use within the entertainment overlay district. The applicant will also be required to combine the associated parcels with a minor subdivision application. The MXEMP zoning designation was eliminated in the 2009-2010 amendment of the zoning ordinance and essentially rendered this zoning district non-viable. Rezoning the Victory Village property to high-intensity mixed use will also relinquish the property of the associated conditional development plan, allowing the property to be developed without the existing proffers. The proposed rezoning would allow for the eventual development of a vacant property and allow construction of compatible commercial development to the surrounding area. The MUH district will allow a variety of uses to be developed on the property should the proposed use not come to fruition. One email public comment was received regarding this application and forwarded to the planning commissioners. Planning staff recommends the approval of the applicant's request to rezone the Victory Village site to high-intensity mixed use. Staff finds that the proposed zoning is compatible with the surrounding area, is compliant with the recommendations of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan, and will allow a variety of appropriate uses to be developed. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand by for any questions.
Commissioners, as I call your name, please let me know if you have any questions or comments for Ms. Chop. Commissioner Youngblood.
Ms. Chop, the only question I have is, was that email that you got about this from a neighbor or from somebody who was directly impacted by this development?
No, I do not believe the letter was from an adjacent property owner.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner G.
No questions or comments.
Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Page.
No comments or questions.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-20-07. I have no registered speaker. If there is someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. I apologize. I skipped ahead. Let me go back. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the public hearing on item Z-20-07. Citizens will be called upon to provide comments or questions and are asked to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments and to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Will the applicant for Z-20-07 come forward to provide any additional information or comments? I'm told that Mr. Steve Romine is representing the applicant. Would you please state your name and your address for the record? You will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Okay. Regina, can you hear me? Good afternoon. Steve Romine.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Chairman Williams and members of the Planning Commission. Again, my name is Steve Romine, an office at 222 Central Parkway, Virginia Beach, Virginia. I represent Portsmouth Gaming Holdings, who is related to Rush Street Gaming as well, and I'll refer to them together. I want to thank, first of all, Julie for that thorough presentation. I'll try not to be too redundant, but I do want to hit some highlights so you have sort of the connection on this project. Portsmouth Gaming Holdings has agreed to purchase the property, which is the subject to this rezoning, from the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority, and to develop it in accordance with the development agreement, which was entered into in May 26, 2020. Portsmouth Gaming, as the contract purchaser, seeks to rezone this property today in accordance with the development agreement in order to construct a world-class casino, hotel, entertainment venue with related facilities like restaurants, retail, parking, and casino gaming facilities. Portsmouth Gaming and Rush Street are a national developer of casino projects with more than 20 years of experience in the gaming industry. Portsmouth Gaming was named as the city's preferred company to develop and operate the casino in Portsmouth, as permitted by the legislation enacted by the General Assembly. The project tentatively is named Rivers Casino Portsmouth, which relates it to the 4 existing casinos owned and operated by Rush Street in other areas, including Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Des Plaines, Illinois, and Schenectady, New York. This project is projected to generate more than $16 million in annual taxes to the city and infuse more than $200 million into the local economy. It's also expected to create 1,400 construction jobs and as many as 1,300 permanent jobs. As Julie noted, the city recently amended its zoning ordinance to allow casinos in the MUH zoning district with a conditional use permit. Otherwise, casinos are not permitted in the city. The property is currently zoned MXEMP, which was a remnant of Victory Village development that was never realized. So we seek to rezone from that MXEMP to the MUH district to permit this project to go forward. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan because it furthers economic, cultural, and development objectives of the comprehensive plan by permitting the development of a unique destination attraction that will create well-paying jobs to the community, reinvigorate local businesses with increased tourism, serve as an anchor attraction for development of the surrounding area, and generate substantial tax revenue for the city. It is also consistent with the future land use map because it's designated as a mixed-use employment district and located in an employment redevelopment area. The casino will generate and support jobs directly and indirectly for many years to come, thereby satisfying the future intended use of the property as an employment generator for the city. As noted by Ms. Chop, we've conducted an extensive traffic study and identified needed road improvements. We'll make such necessary improvements in accordance with the 527 study. But right before this application, you approved the road closure, which is also going to enable this project to move forward. As indicated, the voters on November 3rd adopted the approval of the referendum, which was required by the state as well. And therefore, according to the list that you saw earlier, we will be shortly developing a master plan and expect to file a use permit to develop and operate a casino on the property. But first, the property has to be rezoned to this MUH district. And we ask today that you favorably consider our request and make a recommendation to City Council to approve Z-2007. And I'll stand by for questions. Thank you for your time.
Commissioners, I will call each of your names to see if you have any questions for Mr. Romaine. I have none. Commissioner Youngblood?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner G?
I have no questions either.
Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Page?
No questions.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-20-07. I have no registered speakers. If there is someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. Press *6 to mute your mic, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Okay. Gary Harris would like to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gary Harris. I live at 1105 Warfield Drive in Portsmouth, Virginia. That's in the Cavalier Manor section, which is located directly across the street from the proposed casino site. I have significant concerns about the rezoning of that site, which I'd like to share with you as follows, and I'll be quick. One, it sets our community up to be a sacrificial community based on potential impacts, both analyzed and unanalyzed from the site itself. Secondly, we've done extensive research in terms of siting such casinos from across the country. We find that the site is unsuitable based on the siting criteria, again, that we've researched extensively and such. 4 out of 10 people that live in urban areas where casinos proposed adjacent to them were against them because of these unanalyzed impacts. There has been no community impact assessment done by the casino owners or by the city of Portsmouth on the proposed community, i.e. Cavalier Manor. The unanalyzed impacts include pollution, traffic, noise, et cetera. There was insufficient public notification of this zoning hearing. Only the sign which is shown here and such. No other meaningful, significant engagement of the community has occurred to ensure that the community is involved in this hearing or others. There's been limited analysis of key parameters such as traffic patterns, et cetera, which have a significant impact on the community and such. There's been no cumulative impact. This is going to be a phased design approach. So that there's been no cumulative impact of those key parameters such as traffic, noise, etc., pollution on the community itself over a period of years. There's been no mention of the Cavalier Manor community in any of these discussions in terms of impacts and such. There's been no meaningful engagement, no public hearings, no community-based hearings, no door engagement or involvement, nothing whatsoever in terms of the community in a collective fashion, in a collaborative fashion, in a participatory fashion in this significant project. That there's been no analysis of potential environmental justice inputs or implication as well. Again, significant pollution will occur as a result of this proposed casino and entertainment district. Again, there's been there's been insufficient public notification on a number of occasions. This project has been going on for a long period of time. There's been no direct public engagement, no attempt in a meaningful, deliberate, intentional manner to engage the public and such. There's various cultural aspects of the community itself. Those have not been infused or analyzed or evaluated to ensure that they're part of the design itself. We're looking at the fact that our community bases its future on equity, and we don't see any equity-centered approaches to this design whatsoever. We don't see this casino making our community more resilient at all, i.e. from shocks and stresses. We don't even see the outcome in terms of jobs. Hospitality jobs are great, but the community itself is planning other types of job employment opportunities which are even more significant. We understand that the city will get revenue in from this district concept over the years, some 16 million. But all studies show that starts to trail off over a number of years as well. That is not consistent.
All right, you have 1 minute.
Okay. And again, we have looked at this extensively, and there are few, if any, casinos sited directly adjacent to communities such as ours across the country. You can look at Atlantic City. You can look at Baltimore. You can look at Mobile, Alabama. You can look at Las Vegas. Very few, if any, casinos and developments of this statute are sited directly adjacent to low-income, moderate-income communities. Why? Because such development could cause displacement, i.e., folks living in the community, their property values go up, their taxes go up, and it causes them to be displaced or causes them to be immobile. Our seniors in our communities need to be involved in this. They need to understand the full.
Mr. Harris, I thank you for your comments, but your time is up. Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anyone else who would like to address Z-20-07? You may come forward at this time. Appearing to be no other speakers, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, is there any further discussion on Z-20-07? There being none, the chair is in need of a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, Peter Youngblood here. I'd like to make a motion that we approve 0-20-07 as submitted.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner G. I second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve Z-20-07. Commissioners, as I call your name, Please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Page.
Yes.
This item is approved by a vote of 4-0.
I wouldn't put the hot.
Did someone say something? Commissioner Coleman, are you there? Okay, we're gonna move forward. Okay, our next item is Z-20-06 downtown. Jim Bento of Fairlead Integrated is requesting to rezone approximately 2.4 acres located at 0 Harbor Center Court from downtown D1 T6 sub-district to conditional industrial IN-K in order to expand the adjacent ship manufacturing and repair facility. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth comprehensive plan designates this property for mixed use employment. The property is owned by the Economic Development Authority and is further described as tax map 3, parcel 1. The staff coordinator, Julie Chop, will now come forward and present this application.
Hi again, everyone. This is Julie Chop, Senior Planner with the City of Portsmouth. The rezoning application before you today is a request to rezone approximately 2 acres at 0 Harbor Center Court, known as the North Pier, which is currently vacant and in the flood zone and CBPA IDA area. The applicant would like to expand their current operations at 201 Wavy Street to this adjacent site to allow Fairlead to accommodate a broader range of industrial and manufacturing activities that are not permitted in the current zoning district. Fairlead's proposed expansion will allow them to service the U.S. Navy, Huntington Ingalls, and General Dynamics Electric Boat, with on-site operations including fabrication and preservation of submarine and other Navy ship components, storage of critical fixtures used to manufacture ship sub-assemblies, shipping and receiving by barge, and support energy magazine, autonomous recovery vessel, wind energy, and drone activity operations of Fairlead's other Portsmouth locations. The proposed facility at the North Pier will employ approximately 25 new positions to supplement the over 200 employees at the adjoining Fairlead facility. To the north of the North Pier is a marina zoned downtown urban core D1T6 and the City Hall complex also zoned D1T6. The Portsmouth Atlantic Union Bank Pavilion Waterfront Performing Arts Center is to the west and is zoned downtown urban core D1T6. The North Pier is surrounded to the south by the Fairlead Integrated Facility, which is zoned conditional industrial. Extending past the existing Fairlead property to the south is the Portsmouth Judicial Center and the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. The Portsmouth Judicial Center is zoned downtown special district, and the Norfolk Naval Shipyard is zoned preservation government. To the east of 0 Harbor Center Court is the Elizabeth River. Fairlead plans to conduct a thorough site study and geodetic survey of the site to assess the conditions of the pier. A 38,000 square foot multi-purpose warehouse and fabrication facility is proposed for the property. Two-way access to the site is proposed off of Harbor Center Court. The concept plan includes a security fence and a transition buffer on the north of the site adjacent to the marina and the City Hall complex. The elevations of the proposed warehouse are similar in design to the buildings at the adjacent Fairlead facility. Receiving and loading bays with 40-foot high doors are proposed on the south side of the building facing the adjacent Fairlead property. This elevation shows the facade facing the Portsmouth Pavilion. A decorative mural is proposed for the northwest corner facade of the building. This elevation of the north facade faces the marina and City Hall. This elevation shows the facade facing the Elizabeth River. If this application is approved, development of this property would be subject to review and approval of detailed engineering site plans to ensure compliance with all of the city's ordinance and requirements, including all of the flood zone and Chesapeake Bay protection area regulations. Land use restrictions are very important for this site because of the surrounding waterfront uses and future redevelopment. It is important that these adjacent uses be protected from potential industrial use externalities such as noise and pollution. The applicant submitted a proffer letter that prohibits several uses typically permitted within the industrial use classification from development on the site, which provides land use protection in the event that the proposed development does not materialize. The proffers also protect against potential noise from the Fairlead operation at Portsmouth Pavilion events by limiting their operating hours before and during pavilion events. The proffers ensure that the proposed development, if approved, will be constructed in substantial compliance with the submitted conceptual elevations and layout plan. Staff finds that the use of the property for military and industrial marine ship repairs will be an appropriate use with the proffered conditions to protect the adjacent uses. The property is designated on the future land use map as mixed-use employment. With the proffers, staff finds that the proposed development would be compatible with the surrounding area and aligns with the recommendations of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan. Planning staff recommends the approval of the applicant's request with the proffers provided by the applicant. No comments were received regarding this application. No public comments. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Chop. Commissioners, I will call each of your names to see if you have any additional questions for Ms. Chop. Commissioner Youngblood.
No, not a question, but I just want to make a comment that I'm glad to see that the proffers submitted will make sure we don't have anything like a child daycare center, a fraternity club, a flea market, or tattoo parlor or veterinary clinic in this property. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but in seriousness, I'm glad that Mr. Bento has provided proffers so that if this use does not go through, we're still protected on what sort of uses are going to be in that site. One observation to Ms. Chop, and she can correct me here, that land has been vacant for at least 20 years. I don't know what the last use was. It might have been with the Coast Guard, but I know that several other people have looked at this and had problems doing any kind of development. So I applaud Mr. Bento with coming up with something that looks like it'll finally put this land to use. Julie, have you had any comments from the neighbors?
No, no public comments were received regarding this application.
Thank you. No further questions.
Commissioner G.
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Coleman. I think we may have lost her. Commissioner Page.
No questions.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the public hearing on item Z-20-06. Citizens will be called upon to provide comments or questions and are asked to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments and to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Will the applicant for Z-20-06 come forward to provide any additional information or comments? Please state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. This is Fred Passman, President of Fairleigh. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Chairman Williams, members of the Planning Commission, good afternoon. Thank you for hearing us this afternoon. And Julie, I also want to echo, thank you for the great presentation just given. The only amplifying comments we would make have already been made by Julie. We have invested $11.4 million in this property since we purchased it in 2019. We want to continue to invest in it. We know we have a civic obligation to the citizens of Portsmouth and to the community, and it is why we offered voluntarily these proffers to respect that transition between an industrial and the recreational area. And just again, thank you for hearing us today.
Commissioners, I will call each of your names to see if you have any additional questions of the applicant. Commissioner Youngblood?
No, sir, no questions.
Commissioner G?
No questions.
Commissioner Coleman? In case he came back. Commissioner Page?
No questions.
I have none. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-20-06. I have no registered speakers. If there is someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. Press *6 to unmute your mic, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, if there's no further discussion, we're in need of a motion and a second for Z-20-06.
This is Commissioner G. I move for acceptance of Z-20-06 with the submitted proffers.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Peter Youngblood. I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve with proffers Z-20-06. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood?
Yes.
Commissioner G?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Page?
Yes.
This item is approved 4-0 with proffers. Our next item, Z-20-08, Uptown. The city of Portsmouth is requesting to rezone approximately 250.2 acres and 541 parcels in the D2 Uptown area of the city from D2 Form-Based Code D2 FBC to the recommended traditional zoning districts in accordance with the D2 district proposed new zoning map. The city is also proposing the D2 Innovation Overlay District to be superimposed on the new zoning districts for the D2 Uptown area. The property is designated on the future land use map in the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan as various designations, including commercial, institutional, public, multifamily, residential, mixed-use corridor, light industrial, and heavy industrial. The property is owned by numerous owners and is further described as designated tax map and parcel numbers in the D2 Uptown area. The staff coordinator for this application is Julie Chop. Will you please come forward now and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. This is again Julie Chop, Senior Planner with the City of Portsmouth. I will keep this presentation relatively brief as you were presented with information regarding the D2 Uptown Rezoning and Innovation Overlay District at your October 6th work session. The Uptown area was rezoned in 2009 to form-based code regulations. After developer and property owners experienced difficulties with the regulations, the city identified that the existing form-based code was the incorrect tool to encourage growth and development in the Uptown district. As directed by City Council in 2017, the city requests to repeal the form-based code of the Uptown area and rezone approximately 250 acres and 541 parcels to the recommended zoning districts identified on the D2 Proposed Zoning and Innovation Overlay District map. An Innovation Overlay District is proposed to be superimposed on the new zoning districts, which will clarify requirements for development and facilitate new growth and development. The proposed zoning districts for the D2 area were determined with public input, existing land use information, and recommendations from the D2 Uptown Land Use Study. All of the 541 parcels are proposed for either urban residential, UR, neighborhood mixed use, NMU, general mixed use, GMU, or light industrial, IL zoning classifications. The Uptown area contains residential neighborhoods, industrial development, and commercial districts. The area west of the MLK interchange includes largely industrial type uses and some commercial, residential, recreation, and office uses. The area west of the MLK interchange is largely proposed for light industrial zoning. East of the MLK interchange and west of IC Norcom High School is primarily residential with a mix of civic, commercial, and office land uses. This area includes the Cottage Place neighborhood and several churches and neighborhood scale businesses. Between Jamestown Avenue and Peninsula Avenue are generally larger size buildings, including IC Norcom High School, the Behavioral Health Services, Social Services, and Health Department buildings. The area around IC Norcom High School is proposed to be, which includes the Cottage Place neighborhood, is proposed to be rezoned to urban residential. The parcels across from IC Norcom High School to the south include many of the city's public institutions and are proposed for neighborhood mixed use. The High Street corridor contains largely commercial uses. And the future Hampton Roads Community Health Center corridors is located or will be located there shortly. The majority of parcels in the High Street corridor of the Uptown area are proposed to be rezoned to neighborhood mixed use. The London Boulevard corridor is a major travel corridor with a range of suburban style auto-oriented uses. The London Street corridor is mainly proposed to be rezoned to general mixed use. The parcels adjacent to the Oak Grove Cemetery are proposed for light industrial. The County Street corridor is primarily residential with some office, public, service, and industrial uses mixed throughout. The parcels north of the County Street corridor are proposed to be rezoned to the neighborhood mixed use zoning district. Parcels south of County Street are proposed for light industrial zoning. One of the primary reasons council directed staff to replace the D2 form-based code was due to the number of nonconformities that the form-based code created. Staff has proposed these changes to traditional zoning districts to minimize the number of nonconforming situations. I want to emphasize that if the existing legally established use on the property is not permitted, or if the existing structure or lot is non-conforming in the new zoning district, property owners may continue that use and the existing structure and lot may remain. Staff has also implemented processes in the zoning ordinance rewrite to allow property owners to expand uses, structures, and properties that are non-conforming. The clarified provisions provide for the continuation of non-conforming uses, structures, and lots, as well as to allow non-conforming lots to be developed with any use permitted in the zoning district. Please see the following links on the Planning Department webpage for additional information. The D2 proposed zoning and innovation overlay district map attempts to ensure the new zoning district's designations reflect the will of the uptown residents, the reality of existing and potential land uses, current and future development forms, appropriate densities, and other development standards. Staff feels that the proposal is compatible with the surrounding land, the existing uses, and the city's future land use plans. The Innovation Overlay District provides the conceptual foundation of an overlay that will facilitate reinvestment and redevelopment in the uptown area. Several property owners and adjacent property owners have called for clarification on the changes. A call was also received expressing concerns for the zoning designations of the area west of the MLK. Staff recommends the approval of the uptown rezoning request and the establishment of the Innovation Overlay District. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand by for any questions.
Commissioners, I will call each of your names to see if you have any additional questions for Ms. Chop. Commissioner Youngblood,
No questions.
Commissioner G,
I have no questions.
Commissioner Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Page,
No questions.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the public hearing on item Z-20-08. Citizens will be called upon to provide comments or questions and are asked to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments and to please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. The City of Portsmouth is the applicant for Z-20-08. Mr. Chairman.
Yes. The chair is in need of a motion and a second to approve Z-20-08.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, do you want to open the public hearing for public comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was waiting for you to see if there were any questions to staff from any of the commissioners.
Right, we've already done that part.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-20-08. I have no registered speakers. If there is someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. Press *6 to unmute your mic, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, this is Peter Youngblood.
Okay.
I own a property that's adjacent to the D2 zoning district, and so I was notified that this was coming up. I've got to tell you that this change is long overdue. It reflects the fact that we've had a number of problems permitting various uses in here because they conflicted with the form-based code and have caused us heartache of no end. And I think that this change will better reflect the actual uses in the property. It'll have no effect on my property because I'm just outside the zone, but I have clearly seen the negative effects of this form-based code on surrounding properties. So I wanted to lay that out just as a comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Youngblood. Commissioners, are there any further comments or discussion? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second.
This is Peter Youngblood. I make a motion that we approve Z-20-08 as submitted.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner G. I second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve Z-20-08. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Page.
Yes.
This item is approved 4-0. Our final item for today, CA-20-02, citywide. The City of Portsmouth is proposing to repeal City Code Chapter 40.1 zoning ordinance and replace it with City Code Chapter 40.2 zoning ordinance, which is a comprehensively rewritten zoning ordinance designated to improve clarity and ease of use, streamline development regulations, ease non-conforming situations, protect existing neighborhood character, ensure compatibility with the Code of Virginia, and increase consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. The staff coordinator for this application is Julie Chop. Would you please come forward and present your application at this time?
Hi again. This should be the last time you guys hear from me today. This is Julie Chop, Senior Planner with the City of Portsmouth. This presentation will provide details on the proposed amendment to the city zoning ordinance that were requested by City Council in order to facilitate the process of quality development and redevelopment and improve clarity, functionality, and ease of use. City Council instructed the rewrite to remove unnecessary regulations for development and redevelopment, repeal and replace the D2 form-based code provisions applicable to the uptown area of the city, protect the citizens of Portsmouth while allowing quality infill development and new growth in the community, ensure consistency with the Code of Virginia, and craft other amendments as are consistent with good zoning practice and further the general welfare of the citizens of Portsmouth. The first step of the directive was to assess the current ordinance and pinpoint the specifics of what needed to be changed. The Berkeley Group reviewed the ordinance and identified sections that were not in compliance with the Code of Virginia and identified best practice recommendations for the new zoning ordinance to align with the new ordinance and to align the new ordinance with other applicable city policy documents and federal and state requirements. The Berkeley Group worked with city staff, city leaders, and members of the local development community. They also held a public workshop to gather citizen and business owner expectations for the rewrite. Due to pressing concerns, several sections of the ordinance were updated prior to the full overhaul of the ordinance. The parking section of the ordinance was updated in 2017, primarily to remove the parking maximums that were not benefiting the development of the city. In 2018, the signage section was updated to reflect the Supreme Court case decision in Reed versus Town of Gilbert, Arizona, which clarified when municipalities may impose content-based restrictions on signage. Throughout 2019 and 2020, several joint work sessions were held with City Council and Planning Commission to address zoning issues and concerns. The draft and an explanatory presentation were available for comment on the city's planning department website from January until March of 2020. Presentations of the major zoning ordinance changes were given to the major development groups boards within the city, including City Council, Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, Historic Preservation Commission, and the Downtown Design Committee. A review of the rewrite by developers and property owners was conducted to ensure ease of use and clarity of the document. The rewritten zoning ordinance was assessed for compatibility with the city code, specifically Chapter 9.1 Chesapeake Bay Preservation Overlay District and Chapter 14.1 Flood Protection, along with the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan. Staff also incorporated zoning-related amendments from the 2020 General Assembly session regarding renewable energy, casino regulations, and resilience. Comments, concerns, and questions were gathered from staff, board members, and the public, and necessary changes were incorporated into the final draft of the zoning ordinance. The city attorney's office conducted a formal legal review before the final draft of the zoning ordinance was posted in September of 2020. Again, presentations to City Council, Planning Commission, the BZA, HPC, and DDC were held to update the board on the progress of the zoning ordinance rewrite and gather additional feedback. A virtual planning town hall was conducted on October 21st, 2020 to present the proposed changes to the D2 Uptown area and the proposal of the Innovation Overlay District to property owners and business owners in the area and receive feedback. The proposed map was revised based on feedback from the town hall. The proposed zoning ordinance is a significant improvement, and the changes will facilitate the process of development. It is designed to improve clarity and ease of use, streamline development regulations, ease non-conforming situations, protect existing neighborhood character, ensure compatibility with the Code of Virginia, and increase consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. So this slide goes over the next steps with the process of rewriting the zoning ordinance and additional measures that staff would like to undertake. City Council would adopt Chapter 40.2 zoning ordinance. The graphics previously contained in the zoning ordinance are being incorporated into a new development procedures manual, which is currently in the early stages of development. The manual will supplement the zoning ordinance with details on procedures and will include helpful graphics to explain zoning standards. We feel that an interactive, user-friendly zoning map is essential to increasing our transparency and guiding Portsmouth citizens through the development process. As described in the October work session, an Innovation Overlay District Master Plan and placemaking strategy will be developed to ensure the functionality of the overlay district with extensive public participation. We also plan to revisit the district standards for the downtown district to ensure they are compatible with desired growth. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendment to replace Chapter 41 of the zoning ordinance and replace it with Chapter 42. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand by for any questions from the commissioners.
Commissioners, I will call each of your names to determine if you have any questions or discussion. Commissioner Youngblood?
No, sir, no questions since we've been working on this for over a year. Thank you.
Commissioner G? Commissioner G?
We lost.
Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Page?
No questions.
I apologize. This is Commissioner G. I have no questions.
Hey, okay, come on. Madam Secretary?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the public hearing on item CA-20-02. Citizens will be called upon to provide comments or questions and are asked to verbally identify yourself prior to making comments and to please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. The City of Portsmouth is the applicant for CA-20-02. Mr. Chairman, no comments for staff. We will move on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item CA-20-02. I have no registered speaker. If there's someone on the call who would like to address this application, you may do so at this time. Press *6 to unmute your mic, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
I would, Gary Harris.
Okay, Mr. Harris, you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, a lot less than that. Quickly here. Gary Harris, 1105 Warfield Drive, Portsmouth, Virginia. Zoning itself is very, very complex. It has a language of its own. Very few people outside the zoning office understand it. We took a copy of this document to a conference of public officials and asked them to help us to review it. Very few of them could understand the language, the complexity and impacts of a zoning change like this. So I would behoove the planning office and others to make sure through meaningful community engagement, which is deliberate and intentional, to ensure that grassroots people in our neighborhoods and communities understand what this zoning change is, what are the potential implications and impacts, and both intentional and unintentional consequences which could occur as a result of the zoning change. So again, I just want to make sure that our communities are fully engaged in this process in a deliberate participatory manner.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to, on the call, who would like to address CA-20-02? Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, is there any further discussion or any further questions on CA-20-02? If not, the chair is in need of a motion.
This is Commissioner G. I move for acceptance of CA 20-02.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Page, second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve CA-20-02. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood?
Yes.
Commissioner G?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Page?
Yes.
This item is approved by a vote of 4-0.
Madam Secretary, I believe there are 2 additional items under new business on the agenda. One is the nomination and election of officers, and the other is the approval of the 2021 planning calendar.
That is correct.
Madam Secretary, if we moved, because we don't have all of the commissioners with us, can we move nomination and election of officers to our December meeting and do them both at the same time?
Yes, sir. I believe that would be fine to do that. Am I correct, Mr. Baldwin or Meg?
That would be fine. This is Bob Baldwin. That would be perfectly fine. That's just 2 weeks away.
Right.
Yes, sir.
The commissioners, if you have no objection to that, then what I would suggest is that we move that to our December meeting where we will have more commissioners present. For the approval of the 2021 planning calendar, Mr. Baldwin, is that something we need to do today, or can we move that also?
You could move that also.
So, Madam Secretary, commissioners, if you have no objections, I'll ask the secretary to move both of those items to the December meeting.
Yes, sir.
Is that fine with you?
Yes, sir. That
Okay.
will be fine. The meeting is December the 1st, 2 weeks
Right.
away.
Right.
Yes.
Madam Secretary, now I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Commissioners, do you have any additional questions or comments that we need to address today?
Peter Youngblood, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. If there are no further questions or business from the commissioners, Mr. Baldwin, is there any further business?
I was just noting, it looks to me that the vice mayor has joined us for the meeting today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have the vice mayor with
I'd
us.
just like to say hello and thank her for joining us, as always.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It was very detailed. I love hearing the information that we're going to get. Helps to enforce my understanding of everything. So I appreciate all of the staff reports and the commissioner comments.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you all. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Same
Thank
to
you.
everybody. If there's no further business, Madam Secretary, I believe, hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.